All right, ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls, it is your favorite show. It is Lessons Learned Along the Way, ATW. Like every other week, this week, we have another special guest. This week, we'll be celebrating a philanthropist, a rapper. He also curates, discovers, and places and implements and puts them in the different DSPs. And when I say DSPs, I'm saying digital streaming platforms such as iTunes, Apple Music, YouTube, to mention but a few. He searches, takes his time out of the day to find this talent and showcase them on his playlist, that is. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a father. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Salina, Kansas's very own Kosh Hollistah. How you doing, my brother?
Man, I'm doing good, man. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Just enjoying the benefits of having a weekend to just podcast or do shows and exercise my creativity. So, Cash, man, on a personal basis, I discovered your creativity or your art. I think back in 2014, 2013, you had this huge single, Gorilla. And for some reason, the algorithms on YouTube, whenever I typed Kansas, your song always popped up. That's how much traction, how much pull, how many eyes were on that song. And when I watched that song and I listened to that song, you had set a bar at that time when it came to videos, creativity, when it came to bars, of course. And, I was like, yo, we have a person in Kansas doing this at this level, And as time went on, I started seeing your art, and now, it was not a one-hit thing. And you had a pedigree. You had hits prior to even Gorilla, And I discovered that this guy's been working for a very long time. Cash, it's customary here in our podcast or here at Lessons Learned. I say our, but I'm not trying to say me. I'm not. But our, meaning communal, talking about the listenership and the viewership, our podcast. It's customary that the guest shares a quick introduction, a quick history, history sharing point where they share with the audience what they have done and where they've come from.
Yeah. So like you said, I'm from Salina, Kansas, born and raised. So been a Kansas boy all my life. And so as far as an introduction, as far as music, I come from a musical family, gospel background primarily. My mom sang, my dad sings a little bit, but he plays bass. My sister plays piano, plays guitar. My brothers and I, we play drums. And so I've always had that musical thing, but I wasn't really a good singer. So, around 9 o'clock, when I was 9 years old, that's kind of when I started falling in love with hip hop. And so that was kind of like my introduction into rapping. And then as far as taking it really seriously, it wasn't until high school that I kind of started taking it seriously. And then once I graduated high school and did, a couple years in college, I decided I wanted to take the music thing seriously. So I've just been in the music industry in some capacity for probably about the last 14 years, maybe 14, 15 years.
Oh,
so,
wow.
So that's sort of my journey as far as being a rapper. But then between that, I just learned to, invest in my community in whatever ways I could. So that's happened with hosting shows, throwing shows, and then also to curating playlists and looking for talent and investing in talent as well. So
one thing I really admire that you do is you take your work serious, and it's seen from the final product. Let it be the graphics, let it be the feeling of the art, whether it's the video. You don't shortchange or you don't use any shortcuts in your process. And that's very admirable. I've seen a lot of talented people Um, a lot of them, especially the ones that are not run by a machine, where somebody does everything, right? Something has to give.
Right.
It could be a good, well mixed song, but the video qualities, or maybe you shot it with an iPhone, or something has to give. It's rarely do you find the balance of everything, where the marketing, the rollout is amazing, the quality of the sound is amazing, or the visuals are amazing, and even the approach of selling it, the authenticness of it, where everything has been done, looks good, but how does it look on the artist? Does the artist really look like you believe in what they're saying? You have done a good job in tightening all the gears, you've made it possible. I mean, you've made it visually possible for me as an artist to see, like, okay, that's how you should do it, because there's no weak point in anything that he's putting out. Is that something that you do, like you take like serious? Like how does that happen?
Yeah, I definitely take that serious. I think it's always the presentation. It's always the perception. I think we're in the perception business. So for me, yeah, professionalism has always been key. And that's something that I strive for with everything that I release. So it's got to look good. It's got to feel right. So when it came to something like Gorilla, I knew that I couldn't just drop the song and then that's it. Like, I wanted to be able to push it out to as many people as I possibly could, because I believed in the song, and it took a while for me to do the video because I wanted the video, like, the goal I had was, like, even though it was small, it was like, I want this to be the best video that's ever come out of Kansas, right? So that was a goal for me personally. And so it took a while, and then I got with Josh Hernandez, and I told him the exact same thing. I said, this is what I want. So this is what I want to do. And so that's kind of like what we set out to do. And then also, just reading articles and reading books about, strategies and how you're going to be able to push this, to people. And so, like, one of the things that I saw was somebody had some idea, or like, put your video in like a national event, like release at the same time. And so it was like, what is the most viewed sporting event in the country? Super Bowl halftime. So it was like, okay, so because the Super Bowl halftime is actually longer than regular football halftimes. So it's like, all right, so people have time to sit there, watch my video, and then go back to what's going on at halftime. So we had that idea set up, like, hey, let's go do this, and we'll drop it Super Bowl halftime. And it just so happened that not only was that like a great idea and executed well, but that was the same year when Beyonce did it. And then, like, maybe 5 minutes into the third quarter, the lights went out.
Yeah, the blackout.
So then there was like, the blackout happened. And so there was like a 15, 17 minute pause. Yeah. And so I was like, well, since y'all ain't doing nothing, why don't you come over, to the website, check out the video. And so, like, that helped out, tremendously. So yeah, it's always been like professionalism is key. I know that being from Salina, Kansas, not even Wichita, Kansas, or Kansas City, Salina, Kansas, population 50,000. Nobody's really heard of that spot. For me, as far as my career, like, I always wanted to take it seriously and show, hey, there's some good stuff that comes out of here, but I had to present it right.
Absolutely.
In order for it to be even remotely taken seriously.
Absolutely. Quick question. Who directed Gorilla?
Gorilla was Josh Hernandez. Josh Hernandez. Yes, he directed early on. He was directing Chris Barnett's videos.
Okay.
Who was a rapper from Wichita.
Yep.
Shout out to Chris and a couple other artists, but it was primarily Chris. So I seen these videos and I was like, I love the direction that he was going with the videos, because they weren't just standard point and shoot type videos. Like, it had It had depth, it had meaning, it had a story to it.
Right.
And visually it was great, especially at the time. So I just wanted a better video than Chris.
Yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
that's good quality control right there. Like where you
Yeah.
like, okay, this is the quality, this is the bar. Let's hit higher than that. That's good.
Right.
Setting
Yeah.
your goals. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was it.
All right. So you talked earlier about your beginning, your inception. Like I always say, artists are born, but talent is developed, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I was an artist from get-go. I went to school to do BFA, Bachelor's in Fine Art, but I found a different canvas besides a paintbrush or cloth to paint my picture, which was on the microphone.
Right.
Or with other people I know, like, you just don't wake up one day and artists are born, talent is developed. Talking about the talent, you said your formidable days were, I'm trying to like, I've mentally written notes on what you were saying. Something about high school.
Mm-hmm.
When you formed hip hop, right? You were 9 years old, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
9 years old. That's fairly young. And 9 years old, just not to date us, but what year was that?
That was 89.
89.
That was
Wow.
89. Yeah.
So this is when we're transitioning into the golden era. 89. By the way, I don't know why we overlook the 80s rappers. There was some.
Right.
There was some.
They were good.
The Cool G raps. Rakim Allah.
Rakim.
We talk about. Who's the guy who not KRS. Yeah, he did a lot in the 90s too. He did a lot in the 90s. But I'm looking at strictly the 80s. I'm looking at Cool Mo D.
DMC. Yeah, Cool Mo D too.
Cool Mo D, Run DMC. Run DMC were big. LL.
Yeah.
LL. Yeah. He had a lot of that.
Yeah.
So let's focus on your inception of hip hop. 9 years old, Cash.
Yeah.
We are building. Let's build the scenery right now. You're listening to the radio, hip hop, and coming from Salina, I'm sure you're also influenced by UGK. No, UGK was not there in the 80s. It's Ghetto Boys, I guess. Ghetto Boys, 90s, 90, 90, 89, 80, 88, 89. Yeah. Who else? Jeez, I don't know too much about Southern rap. But
for me,
what was the scenery? What was the scenery then?
For me, I wasn't really into Southern rap.
Okay.
Like the first group that introduced me to rap was EPMD.
Eric Sun. Okay.
Yeah. So Eric and Parrish, they were the ones. You Got to Chill. That was the first video that I saw on MTV Raps, and that's what got me into it. So again, dating myself just a little bit as far as my background. Like I said, gospel background. So my parents were pastors, and so I couldn't necessarily listen to secular music at the time.
Yeah.
So my first time that I actually heard EPMD was at my grandma's house on the East Coast in DC, and I just happened to flip on Yo MTV Raps, and like I said, that was when I first started. That was my introduction.
Right.
So coming back to Kansas, and then really just getting into it. I mean,
well, you one of those kids like putting on everyone to like the East Coast stuff that you heard.
Yeah. Because like most of the hip hop like in Kansas, if it wasn't like West Coast, because West Coast was popping.
Yeah.
Like it just started popping.
Yeah. I'm thinking about NWA. Yeah, around that time. Yep.
So it was either that or it was like the heavy pop stuff. So that's MC Hammer, that's Vanilla Ice. That's those type of artists. And so that was kind of what made me really start, getting into it. And I mean, I was also 10 at the time. So of course I was listening to the Hammers and the Vanilla Ices, but definitely East Coast was my thing. So
EPMD, that's a legendary group. And little that people don't even talk about how amazing of a producer Eric Sermon is.
Oh man,
like
absolutely.
he is underrated. He's amazing.
Yes.
Did that? Okay, are you an APMD fan, or were you just, that was what brought you into the genre, and then you discovered this is the style I want? Were you an APMD fan?
Yeah. Oh yeah. So Strictly Business was like one of the first.
Strictly Business. Yep.
That was the one of the first tapes that I got.
Right.
And so obviously I follow Eric Sermon. I still do.
Def Squad. You went to Def Squad too?
Yeah. So like when they split, Def Squad was the squad for me.
Right.
Like Hit Squad was cool. You know what I mean? Das Effects, PMD. They was cool, but they weren't Def Squad.
Das Effect era was confusing for me, because I'm one of those. I'm like you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, 89. I was fairly young. I don't want to date myself, but I was fairly young and I didn't listen to hip hop, right? But when I got introduced to hip hop, I went backtrack and said to go through the catalogs of the people that set the foundation, right?
Okay.
And I got to the Das Effect era, which I remember. I remember being on the radio and I'm just hearing them, the whole style. I'm like, and everyone said doing it. And then I'm hearing, of course, Chris Cross from Atlanta doing the same thing. Migdy Mac Daddy. Like, I'm like, it was just weird because it was kind of like mimicking my origins, where when I started listening before hip hop, my first love was dance hall. So I grew up with Super Cat, and that's all they did because they were MCs. You know, hey, Mr. Officer, come down. That's how they grew up. That's the style. And that was like Das Effect. I know they're New Yorkers and they're around this hub of Jamaicans. Let's say if you go to like Flatbush, Brooklyn, that's predominantly Caribbean people. So you get those vibes and you implement them into hip hop. At that time, I'd never seen that, forgive me for this word, entanglement, that mingling of things, of these styles, and it just sounded not good. But everybody was like, Das Effect was a thing. People don't remember. Das Effect was a real thing.
Oh no, They Want Effects was like one of my favorite songs growing up.
Yeah, that was a real thing.
I was 11, but yes, that was like one of my favorite songs.
Yes. So let's go through that journey again. So now you start to develop, you start to build your palette and stuff that you're listening to.
Right.
Who was the artist that influenced Cash to grab a pad, to grab a pen, and let's start jotting down our thoughts in a hip hop format or a rap format?
Okay, so it was quite a few. Again, I started writing like when I was 9.
Oh wow.
But I think as far, because like I started when I was 9, so like, I entered a contest, a talent show, that third grade talent show at my school, and so then I won.
Wow.
And so that started at 9. But I think maybe to modify my answer a little bit, as far as like what sort of made me think, okay, let me put pen to pad and write seriously, was Gospel Gangsters.
Ooh.
It was a Christian rap group from LA, Compton, and so like most of the stuff that I was listening to or had to listen to when I was in the house was Christian rap. And back then, especially back then, it was like light years behind what was popping, in popular culture.
Right.
And so then they had dropped this album called Gang Affiliated, and it sounded crazy. And it was like, this is legitimate. I can actually bang this around my friends and not get clowned for it. Like, it was cool. So like their approach to music and their approach to sharing their faith over the music was like a light bulb for me.
Right.
Because for me, like I said, I'm a pastor's kid, not a street dude, never been a street dude,
right.
Super square. I was good with the grades, and so it was odd for me to try and rap. Like I just wanted to rap what I knew. And I didn't know nothing about the street life, none of that stuff. So it was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be rapping about, really. So even though like I'm young and I see Chris Cross and them doing it, and I saw Another Bad Creation and them doing it.
Yeah, Another Bad Creation. Wow.
I was like, okay, let me try and find a way to share my experiences, and that was the tape that did it for me. That was like, hey, I can exude sort of this confidence, and this is kind of where that early Save Not Soft mentality came from that record. And so, that's kind of what started it for me.
When I was little, I think I've shared this with my audience. My mom is born again Christian, and when I was a kid growing up in Uganda, there was a TV station that was designated to only Christian substance, right?
Okay.
Let it be cooking shows, let it be cartoons, let it be music, and it was TBC. I think it was from the TBN. Yes, yeah. Trinity Broadcasting Network. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And my mom would like kind of like try to like derive us from, not trying to drive us from this station to that TBN, because he's like, oh, you can listen to Carmen. I'm like, and I listened to it. And I'm like, nah, this is not it, because he did every style. He did country, he did like rock, he did hip hop, but it was like, he had as a kid, the stuff that I could gravitate to was the cartoons like Kobe's Clubhouse, I think. Well, I think Mr. T was on that station too. Yeah. And only 90s people that were raised in the early 90s to like would understand how there was this big, especially when, and I didn't grow up in America, so I'd only imagine you in the States. There's what's her name? The lady that asked to take Tupac's CDs off the off the shelf. What's her name?
No, C. Dolores Tucker.
Yes.
C. Dolores Tucker.
So there was this drive to Christianity, saying no to drugs, growing up, like all this thing transitioning from the bush. Because I remember it was the Christianity drive was big. It was so much forced into us as kids that we ended up being rebellious. I think the kids are growing up like kind of like, took a strong left turn to like. Am I making sense? And I'm only looking at it from how much everything was like looked at back then. Like if you look at Tupac's albums that were taken down, if you look at the rules that came out, the laws that came out with the 3-strike rule, everything was like super.
The True Life with the parental advisory.
Yeah, the parental advisory when they went to court and won that. Like the whole vibe was just, like it was always to clean up something. And I'm just now that you're saying that, sorry, this is not off meeting notes, or this is just me going through my Rolodex of memory and my timestamps and periods, just to see like I could understand where you came from, where you like, okay, I need to find a group that can make me integrate with these people that doesn't sound like the Christian music that was out there at that time.
Yeah. And so like, you brought up TBN, and that's exactly where I first saw them. There was a show on TBN, late night show. This guy named Leon Patillo. He had like his Christian talk show, so it was like a Christian version of Late Night with David Letterman or whatever.
Right.
And so they were on there. You know what I'm saying? They had the Dickies on. They looked like they just came straight from Compton, and so they were there, and it was just their most authentic self. And I heard one of their songs. I think it was I can't remember the song that they did, but I was like, yes, this is it. And so I immediately went and got that tape. And so that sort of was like, okay, now I feel good enough to where I can write something and it's not corny, because most of the stuff was corny. DC Talk at the time.
DC Talk, yep, I remember DC Talk.
You mentioned Carmen. Yep, yeah. Carmen. And
the song Addicted to Jesus, I think. And I'm like, it was the whole play on like drugs, like addicted to Jesus. And I'm like, yo, moms, it's not it. Because at that time I was listening to it, somebody had put me on the infamous Mobb Deep. And I'm like hearing, punch you in the face, stab your brain with your nose.
With the nose bone. Yeah.
I can see inside your face. You're in the wrong place. Get your whole body laced up. Now I'm listening to Addicted. I'm like, mom is like trying to, there's that point where mom is trying to like, this is cool. This is good. This is good music. Right. You hear the chord progressions. You hear this.
And they don't. Yeah, and they don't know.
This right here is a bridge. My mom is trying to teach me a bridge. But anyways, moving from that mind state to me being like, you know what? And I struggled with religion. because I grew up from that household that really my dad gave us the opportunity to either choose. My dad is Christian, but he never really enforced it. My mom was enforcing on the religion side. Growing up, I had perfect Sunday school attendance. I did my thing, praying. I never missed the night praying, because that's how I was raised, right?
Right.
But as I said, getting older, I felt like it was more. I feel like there was an aspect of it being indoctrination, and now, as I said, developing. Of course, as you get older, you realize, spirituality is a real thing. There was a time in my life where I felt like, you know what, you live, you die. But I could understand generations that grew up from that. I mean, this generation, I think, is more secular. I think I feel like they were. It was never like officially televised, where in our country there were like prayer times. We had like 3 Christian channels or 4 Christian channels. Like even school prayers was a real thing. Like everybody stops, we all pray. We had religious education in school, in our curriculum. Nowadays, I don't think that's a thing. But anyways, just looking and comparing on contrasting now and then, it's a very interesting topic that I may have to dive into in another podcast.
Yeah.
It's a good topic. But here we here to celebrate you. So Cash, to me, as an MC, as a person that prides myself off how I create creative ways, or how I use my conviction and the God-given voice that I have to put my point across through conviction, through articulation, through code meaning, whatever. I would say I would never label you as a gospel rapper. I would just say you're a rapper who's Christian.
Yeah.
You're like, because
I'm cool with that.
When I listen to you, I don't hear. I hear, yes, there's the Christian element. But when I hear you rap, I hear dope lyricist, dope MC.
Sure. I take that.
Have you struggled with, and I'm saying that to say this, have you struggled with finding a niche audience that will not create the narrative for you? Because audience will create a narrative for you.
Oh yeah.
Especially when you have all Christian audiences. You're like, like Lecrae at one time, and he had to be like, oh yeah, this is my audience. They make me go platinum, but remember, I'm trying to get you. I'm like, do you ever struggle? Do you have that struggle?
I not so much anymore. I used to because I was heavy on both sides at one point. Like I was super like, no, Christian rapper, Jesus. And then like I, pendulum swing extreme the other way. It's like, no, I'm not a Christian rapper, blah, blah, blah. But then like for me, it was no matter what I did, and what brought where I'm at, what brought me to this conclusion now was I saw Switchfoot, who had a really good year one year. They had dropped their album, The Beautiful Letdown, and so they came out of the Christian music business, and The Beautiful Letdown was like sort of their breakthrough album. And they had an interview with like one of the Christian magazines, and were like, we're Christian by faith, not by genre. So they were doing this thing where they were sort of downplaying, and I feel like that's the same for me, and it was accurate. But then like I read another magazine article maybe 10 minutes later, and Mandy Moore was like, there's this awesome Christian rock band named Switchfoot that I've been listening to. So it was like, it didn't matter what I said. You know what I mean? People are going to label you whatever they label you. So for me, I just was like, yep, sure. If I'm a Christian rapper, sure. If I'm a rapper that's a Christian, sure. If I'm a gospel rapper, okay. Yeah. And like if that's what you think I am, then that's fine. Like I'm gonna be me regardless, and if you gravitate towards it, you gravitate towards it. So
absolutely.
I create the narrative.
Absolutely. I mean, and that's very powerful for you to say that you create the narrative, because I've visually seen. Okay, you can see anything, but I have seen it close to close. I've been next to an artist that we were developing at the time. That is that his demo, or the people that gravitate to his music, view him, and this is different. I don't think but it has a similarity in what we're saying, right? His
Okay.
his demo, his niche, view him as an R&B singer.
Okay.
In his mind, he'll outbar you to death. And he'll make sure that when he's around you and he knows all you do is rap, he's gonna rap. Then we had a real conversation in artist development to say, bruh, they like your singing. Like, why can't I do both? I'm like, okay, this is where the artist integrity and the idea of the artist kind of dies, and I hate it. I hate that I had to tell it to him. I hate that my my other partner that I was working with had to tell it to that artist, because I felt like a little bit of his passion kind of like it's not fun anymore, kind of, because what we told him was the numbers clearly say that these female or lady listeners want to hear you sing. It's evident. The numbers are not lying, but again, we were also at that time, we were young. We were like in our mid-20s, coming to our 30s, 27, 28. And we're looking at it from a capitalistic microscope. How do we capitalize on what you have? And that's what he wanted. He wanted to make the best money from the best of what he's doing, right? And he had the dilemma because really and truly, he's a rap hit. He's a rapper's rapper. But when he mixes it, the outcomes were not fruitful. So I hated to be the bearer of bad news, because it's always that one person that you are developing that sends you songs constantly, and they're rapping on boom bap beats every time. Like, check your email. I'm like, bruh, go with what's catching. And I hate that I had to say that, because maybe he could have developed into this, and I'm also, let's put time frame in the context. The only person that was doing it at that time was Drake. So in my head, I was wrong, because now we have Tory Lanez, we have, at that time I didn't know, so I gave him the worst advice ever in categorizing him, because the reason they'll put you in a genre is because it's easier for the listener to go pick and scroll through a selection of people they want, and they'll choose you. And the reason that you're winning in the R&B side is because they like you, and that's what was my reasoning. Hindsight 2020, right?
Yeah,
sorry.
Yeah, no, and I think that's primarily, like, for me, as far as my base, I acknowledge that the majority of my base is Christian, and so I get where, like, why I would get placed in certain categories, and I'm actually okay with that. Like, if that's where, like how, like, your mom was like, yo, I want you to listen to this. I know that there are moms out here that would do the exact same thing for my stuff, and so if that's easier, if that's going to be the easy way for me to get in front of your kid, or to get your kid to listen to it, then that's cool. So yeah, part of me is like, the business part of me understands the labeling,
right?
You know what I mean? The artist side of me hates the labeling.
It doesn't mix, because
no.
to be an artist, capitalism and artistry don't get along.
No,
because an artist expresses on how they express exactly how they feel, the way they want to feel. You cannot tell them, like, okay, this is the winning strategy, this is the formula right here. That's not an artist. That's manufactured. There's automation into that. That's plug and play type of stuff. And I think I was getting him into that mentality of plug and play, because we formed a formula with R&B. Until today, I still apologize to the artist. It's like, I didn't know. I could not forecast that Drake opened these doors, because I'm coming from a dinosaur era where if you're rapping, man, you better not sing. If you're singing, you better not rap. Yeah. But now, who am I to say anything? J. Cole wants to play basketball, so I can never really categorize. Like, we're in that point in the matrix where you could shape shift, you could do whatever you want to do. So genre melting, genre mashing, it doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter, and I wish I knew that earlier. But hey, my apologies, my dude. You know who you are. Let's talk about, where did you find the desire to become not official by title, but become an A&R through your curating and playlist creation. I'm from K is his playlist, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm from the K.
I'm from the K. So the playlist thing, the idea that sort of came actually a year ago. And I'm from the K because now it's actually switched to the K list. That's the name of the playlist now. But I'm from the K. I mean, it went back to when I was selling merch. And so from Gorilla, the first line was, I'm from the K, that's in the middle of the map, fellas. So I took that, made that a merch line. The merch line was pretty successful. And then for a while, I just kind of stopped selling the t-shirts, but I wanted to bring back the I'm from the K merch. And I felt like that was a perfect way to sort of tie in with the old merch was I'm from the K. But as far as like the idea from the playlist, it was one of my DJ friends who was doing a playlist for like some of his Oklahoma people. And so I was like, man, I know that there is a lot of talented artists in hip hop and on the R&B side that are from my state. I've been, privileged enough to travel around the state more than a few times, just doing music and doing so, meeting and networking with a bunch of artists, a bunch of singers, musicians, and whatnot. And I felt like, man, there are a lot of really talented artists, some of whom have blown up.
Yeah.
And so it was like, all right, well, I want to put a spotlight on the state.
Right.
And so it was like, okay, so that was kind of like my thing where I was like, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and do this. And so the reason why there's like 34 tracks, if you look at the K list, the reason why it's 34 tracks is because Kansas is the 34th state in the union. So
nice.
I wanted to be able to showcase the state, and there are a lot of talented artists, not just in one place. Like primarily I was in the Wichita music scene, but like I said, I was able to travel around, and there's been talented artists everywhere.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I won't lie, I do listen to your playlist to see what's new, what's
Mm-hmm.
happening, and it's good because I'm telling you, there's so much music out there.
So much.
And I gotta thank curators. For a person like me, my time is like limited. Like, it's so hard for me to be on these DSPs looking for talent or looking for something that I'll like that is local. You make it easy. You put that list out, the K list. I go in there. I think I subscribe to the Spotify one and listen to listen to the joints that I like. And I had also the privilege one time to be on the list. I appreciate you for scouting me out and placing me on there. You do a lot of awesome stuff. One of the things that I really like that you do, that I want to challenge myself to find a model like that for not only here people in the United States, but also help people back home, is you offer philanthropy in form of scholarships.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you do a lot of giving back, but one thing that definitely I look at that philanthropy piece with value is you empower people through education.
Mm-hmm.
What was the driving force for that, and how did that all begin? How did that idea begin, and how did the implementation begin?
So for me, as far as getting into like arts education, which I still do from time to time, there was a lady that was who was a part of the Arts and Humanities Commission here in my city. She reached out to me because this was like when Gorilla was really taking off. And so she had seen it and all that. And so she had just reached out to me and said, hey, would you do sort of like a poetry and hip hop class? Kind of teach, talk about poetry and talk about hip hop, because, she was like, hip hop is poetry. And I was like, yeah, it is. And so she reached out to me, and I was like, man, I don't know. I'm not like a teacher. I speak on what I know, but I'm not like a teacher. Okay, boys and girls, this is what rap is like and whatever. But she sat down and she helped me develop sort of a curriculum, sort of a plan to talk to kids. And that first class was crazy. It was a great class. And so from then on, it was like, okay, I think I can do this. I can't do this all the time, but I felt like I can do, specialty classes. I could go to a school like twice a semester and kind of talk about it. And so I've been blessed to do creative writing classes, English classes that talked about poetry and hip hop, and sort of used classic poets like Langston Hughes, Robert Frost, Keats, and then sort of juxtaposed them with modern day poets. So obviously Biggie and Pac, but then also Kendrick Lamar and J. Cole, Mos Def, Common. And so telling these kids that, hey, just because the popular culture right now is like more like vibes and waves and like turning up, there's actually a message and there's a way to communicate through hip hop that hip hop does, via poetry over beats. And so that started maybe 7-8 years ago. And then I've just been able to continue doing that. And so from there, I was actually, on the Arts and Humanities board. I got to join the commission. So, first rapper to ever be on a commission.
Wow.
So it was like first rapper from Kansas. And so just watching those things and being able to sit there and see what was going on, I was like, okay, so let me find ways to, sort of invest. And so then, for about maybe a 3 or 4 year period, I was hosting like open mic poetry sessions here in Salina, and so was able to like birth a whole poetry scene here, and then connect with like the Wichita scene, Topeka scene, Kansas City, even Oklahoma. So Oklahoma City and Tulsa came up, and for like 4 years, it was really like a popular thing. It was a popular niche here in the city. And so when I decided to step down, and I was like 2016, the coffee shop in which I had hosted those series,
right,
they wanted to give me a scholarship. They wanted to put a scholarship in my name, and so that shocked me, and I was like, wow, okay, that's cool. So like for the past 4 years, they put up some money, and so I match it every year, and I give it to a high school senior that was kind of doing the same things that I'm doing. So, investing in their particular community through art. Obviously, if they're doing well in school, that's great. But it's like, enriching their community through art.
Yeah.
And that's something that's near and dear to my heart, because that's how I've done it. And so the owner, Tammy, shout out to Tammy, her and I, we sit there and we go through the applications, and at the end of the day, I get to pick who wins. And so it's been good. So the past 4 years has been really nice. I keep in touch with them still. Been able to send 4 seniors, one to San Diego State, one to Seattle Pacific University in Seattle, Washington, one to Phoenix, and then another one is actually going to, this year's winner is going to Emporia State here in Kansas. So that's, man, I can't ask for anything better than that.
That's like super fulfillment right there. Like,
oh yeah,
that is, I mean, being a server of other people is like the key, the primary thing that we are on this earth to do. Man, I commend you for that. I challenge myself to have a model similar to that empowers those around me, and those and those that are of less fortunate, or just of that element. I challenge myself, and very soon I'll have something that I have to do my due diligence and serve my community and serve those people that are like me or are around me. So I have known this, and I've seen this. You're a great mobilizer. You are good at bringing people together. You've done the poetry gigs, or the poetry sessions at the coffee shop. And back in the day, you had the Cypher Show. The infamous or the famous Cypher Show.
Cypher Show. Yeah.
Some people came from those platforms, I would say the coffee shop. I have Capella, who's doing big in Kenya. He's doing great. And then we'll talk about the Cypher Show. You have some battle rappers that left the Cypher Show to blow up. Mm-hmm. All facts, actual facts.
Yeah.
Where did this, because I'm also seeing entrepreneurship in you, because you have to invest. Where does this heart of these ideas come from? Who influenced you? Who motivated you? Who made you believe you could do all these things?
Like my parents really were supportive. They instilled in me like you really can do anything you put your mind to. It sounds cliche, but like that's really true, especially in my case. Like if I really want to do something, and I really go all out for it, I can do it. But I mean, I saw entrepreneurs. So I saw like Russell Simmons, obviously P. Diddy. I saw other guys like Andre Harrell. I saw
R.I.P. to the legend.
Yeah. And like I saw these guys kind of do their own thing. So it was like, okay, what can I do on a Kansas scale? You know, like it's not going to be New York, it's not Atlanta, it's not where I'm at. But what can I do on a Kansas scale to bring that flavor and that culture here?
I would say you're the Kansas Keenan Ivory Wayans.
Hey,
Keenan Ivory Wayans.
Yeah.
You know, his platform, or Nick Cannon with Wild 'N Out, his platform you had talent. You've had talent on your platforms.
Yeah.
You've always had an idea, and you know, people go check out Cash's resume. Go look at what he does.
Oh yeah.
He's had platforms. I think have you done like what they call it, a festival before? Have you created and curated a festival? Or
no, that's like,
because I could see you pulling that off.
Yeah, that's an idea that I've had for years. I'm just right now. It depends on kind of what happens and what shakes with COVID. Oh, okay. But that's something that I would love to do in the future. But I haven't done that yet. That's the thing. But like most of these ideas, man, they stem from boredom. Like, I mean, you know, like I'm bored. I'm like, yo, I want to do something different. I want to do this. I want to do that. So like a lot of these ideas, I was hosting a gig. I was hosting a gig and was just like, yo, what about this? What about doing like ciphers? Because we were doing ciphers at the end of the show. Right. And I was like, man, I miss like authentic ciphers. And you know, one of the homies, we were on Twitter kind of talking about it, and I was like, man, I would love to do like a cipher type show. And then come to find out, one of my friends in Detroit was doing sort of what I was thinking. And so I was like, yo, do you mind if I do a Midwest version
of what you have?
Show? Yeah. And so he was like, yeah, go ahead. And so then that's kind of how Cypher Show Midwest started. And so I was like, man, I know, again, it's a lot of talented cats that can rap. Right. And I can bring them to Salina. And so that's kind of what happened.
I mean, I've been invited to all the stuff that you put out. I think you had Battle of the Beats once.
Yeah, that a couple times.
Yeah, and you know what? And I'm like, yo, this Cash guy is a mobilizer. Like, he's a fisher of men. He brings people together. He helps. First of all, it's the networking aspect.
Yes. Yep.
It's the A&R aspect where you kind of self-evaluate if I'm on that level yet. And it's kind of a harsh way of teaching, whatever. Forgive me, from Uganda. Maybe I'm not articulating myself, but it's a harsh way of evaluating how good you are. But when you see that level of talent you go back and you improve. So it's a level of A&Ring through self-evaluation.
Yeah.
And also, sorry.
Go ahead.
It's also a way to discover talent. If I'm a producer, if I'm a manager, if I'm a event organizer, like you did this, you've been doing this scaling like 10 years. I may be wrong, maybe longer. Yeah. Correct me. But I believe the Cypher Show was 2010.
Yeah, so it's been, we just celebrated 10 years. Yeah.
So 10 years. So I'm looking at that and I'm seeing your history with these things. And also seeing that you have the time to still do your philanthropy, to still put out music, to still put out some of the dopest visuals, you know, put out dope music. Man, salute to you. We celebrate you today, man.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, and it's always a good thing, man, to be able to create, and not only that, but to see it execute well. Man, there's no really big, you know, bigger payoff for that. I mean, it's a high that you try and chase. So each new thing that I try to create, like I'm chasing a high, and like the high from that is awesome.
So I have a question, and this is like something to help younger artists or not younger, but maybe even managers in the game right now. How interpersonal relationship, and especially people that have the gift that you have of bringing people together, of ciphering people together, you know, drawing people together to celebrate, you know. A lot of us, including myself, our interpersonal skills are not up to par. Like where we really don't have that thing, the gravitas, the thing that makes people come to us, or say, yo, Strap, I'm coming for your show, you know?
Yeah.
What muscles, not physical muscles, but what personality muscles do we have to work on to help groom that, and also to help develop that? Because if you're creative, if you're an artist, you need your colleagues around you, and that's how you create eras. That's how you create. That's how the Renaissance was created. That's how you know, all the golden eras is because all of them were together working and challenging each other, networking.
Yeah.
So what can we do to do that?
I think honestly, like when it comes, because for me, I'm introvert by nature, so like I'm not really a talker. Like, so you may not see me at all like the networking events, or, you know, any of the mixers or any of those type of get-togethers. Like, I'm not really there. And if I am, I'm more so like playing the back and I'm observing and stuff like that. But I think just recognizing the key people that you want to be friends with. I think one of the homies used to tell me that networking is strategically making friends. And that sort of shifted how I talk to people. I mean, you know, there's things that we want from each other. And so, you know, like I try to state my intentions, you know, as respectful, but as like direct as possible. And so I think it's really just, hey, I'm not a jokester, so I'm not about to start cracking a whole bunch of jokes. I think you sort of accentuate, or you turn up a little bit those strengths that you have. Like if you are a natural talker, then you're going to talk more at these, like, you know, at a show, after a show, those type of things. So I think you use those strengths to your advantage. And then those things that you might not necessarily be good at, like good at talking, you know, find ways to be better at talking. So, like speech classes, like Toastmasters. Absolutely. You know what I mean? Like those type of things. Like it sounds crazy, but like those things, there's a plethora of ways to improve, you know, in talking and networking and all those things. So that's what I would say. Get on the YouTube, man. Enroll in YouTube University, bro. Right. iTunes U, all that stuff. Right. Like that's gonna always help you.
And one thing, I mean, I'm also a person that is a big. I emphasize like knowledge, knowing who you are. You have to have a little bit of knowledge yourself, and know how other people perceive or receive you. Mm-hmm. You know, it takes a little bit of time. It takes a little bit of, you know, rankings and age to really know who you are and how you rub off on people. Mm-hmm. Because you could take all these classes, but you never look in the mirror. You never know, because there's so many things, especially if it's geo-centered, like body language. Mm-hmm. Body language is a big thing, especially if you go to different parts of the world. You know, shaking your hand really tight is kind of aggressive. Here in Kansas, it's more of like, you have a firm grip.
Respect,
you know, looking people in the eye can be, oh man, why are you looking at me in the eye? You trying to, like, you know, it could be like in the streets, it could be different. In corporate world, it could be different. Like you have to know yourself, know how people receive you, And the key thing is study the room. Like how he says, he sits back,
Yep.
watches. Because if before you study the
Yep.
room and you try to implement or try to insert yourself and your personality, even if it's introverted or extroverted, into that mix, you're going to get lost in the sauce. Because yes, you think they're smiling at you or they're smiling with you. I don't know. And I realized that quick because I, for one, I grew up in a family. Of course, I have my brother, my brother and my sisters, but my granddad had 21 kids. So I grew up around, Christmas time. I'm around a whole bunch of personalities. So I'm an introvert, but I have extrovert tendencies. I know when to switch it on, when to switch it off. You know, and I know sometimes it's not the healthiest because even with work, I work myself too much trying to be an extrovert, and coming back home, instead of spending time with the people that really care about me, I'm trying to like detox all the extrovert stuff that I was doing. I just want some peace and silence, which is not healthy.
Yeah. No, and I'm the same way. Like I'm a pretend extrovert. So like, and it's weird because I'm good at like hosting. I'm good at talking, even though I don't like talking.
Right.
So like, why would I go do a radio show?
Right.
Well, it's fun. It's fun, and I like doing that, and I feel like I'm good at hosting. I'm good at throwing these events, and so rather than paying somebody to talk, I can talk.
Right.
I can do this. So, and it, like I said, just so happens that I'm pretty good at it. So I end up doing it. So, but I know how to turn that on and turn that off. But it has its pros and cons, and
it does. Because sometimes you can spread your energy thin.
Yeah.
You find yourself in a point where, why was I talking to that dude right there?
Yeah. Where did my 15 minutes go?
I wasted my 15 minutes talking about stuff I don't really care about.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm not saying fake it, but yes, sometimes even I'm asking myself why I spent but that guy with the 15 minutes that I just talked about some random stuff is the same person that has opportunity or they take that personal experience, even though you try to get out of your element, and it'll go a long way because people can read energy, they can know they're introvert trying, but they're like, at least he's trying, rather than being the coolest dude. And that's a weird thing. They think introverts are being cool. We are not being cool.
Yeah.
When we're quiet.
We're being quiet. Yeah.
We just don't know what to say.
But that's the thing. Like certain people, and you do that because there's opportunities, and that's what you were saying. And they remember those conversations. It's Absolutely. The weirdest thing. Like to us, it's like, where's my 15 minutes? And then I'm gonna forget, right? Because I got things to do. But they'll remember, and then the next time they see you, they'll bring that back up.
Right.
They'll, you know what I mean? They'll be like, man, I remember when you said this, blah blah blah. And so that's why like you turn that on, because there could be opportunity.
But here's the double-edged sword of being an introvert like me. When I want to talk, I want to talk. If I meet somebody that has a subject matter expert that I am, we can nerd out.
Let's talk. Yeah, right. Yeah.
And I'll talk your ear off, and you'll be like, bruh, you and my significant other, my girl, would be like, how come you talking with that dude for like hella hours about like mixes and different knobs and EQing and all this stuff, but for me, you keep it like, and I'm working on that. But I think it's a double-edged sword. When you really let out, like you're gonna talk somebody's ear off because that's content or that subject matter that you're interested in.
Right.
And
absolutely,
that's where I envy an extrovert that can give you 15 minutes for each person and not go past those 15 minutes. They're just working the room. They shake, and I'm like, how do you do that and not go in the shower and just sit dog, like I feel horrible doing that because I'm already judging the room when I walk in, which is a bad thing though. I need to work on that, but I don't do shows. Never been to a show in my life.
Really?
I mean, I've been to a show I performed, but never been to like a big, like a Drake or a big production. I don't like crowds.
Yeah. Wow. I don't really care for crowds, but I think it's good for me because I want to see the other side. I want to see kind of like how they perceive, like, you know, even growing up and going to shows, sort of getting that feeling back, but then also, like how, just how that other side goes.
I can't do crowds. I will stream the show.
You can't do VIP?
I don't think I can.
Really?
I don't think I can, because that also gathers looks and eyes, and you know, I don't want my nightmare was being in a mosh pit. That's like my biggest fear right there. That traumatizes me, because I don't like it. I mean, I used to do it in my 20s, trying to go out to the bars, and when I'm there, I'm just watching. Like people watching, and the next thing I know, I'm that friend who'll get an Uber. We all go there together, and I'm already home. I put on my, put my video game on, or I won't lie to you, like, and that's one thing that I struggle with being an artist, because I'll talk to my colleagues, is they enjoy their fun was being on stage. My fun was being in the studio.
Yeah.
Being in the studio creating. I could create. Then when it's time to perform, I'm like, gosh, now I gotta pretend that I like what I'm doing. Like, I like creating, I like mixing, I like the process of developing a song. I like the process of adding layers. Even though to somebody that I invite, a friend of mine, I invite them to the studio, they passing out because it's just a whole bunch of work. For me, I enjoy that, and I'm different like that. So I understand. Yeah. That's why I was asking, a person like you who has a gift of mobilizing, how does a person like you teach somebody like me how to get people together and not feel like you're spreading yourself too thin? I mean, you're spreading yourself thin because you're extending yourself too much.
I think it's the strategy of trying to figure out which ones, and it's trial and error, because you're not going to get that off rip. It's really trying to figure out which one of your friends can work with the other person, and which section could work with this, this crowd here. And so, I'm pretty fortunate to have a good win-loss track record. But I got some losses. I then took some L's, tried to do some stuff too. So, I mean,
doing the great stuff that you do, definitely you have to fill a few licks. You have to. Mm-hmm. You have to hit yourself on the floor a few times. All right, we're getting to almost the end of this episode. We have a few questions but I have a few questions for Cash. First question is First question would be your life philosophy. Okay. And usually I lead this up by talking about my life philosophy as an example, so I can lead you into the right direction of how to answer this. Okay. So my life philosophy right now, as a young 33-year-old, my life philosophy is open to anything, attached to nothing. Okay. Reason being, COVID. Reason being, life. Reason being, anything can happen at any time. Don't be attached to change. I mean, don't be attached to the same thing. Be open to change. Open to everything. Being open to learning from the youngest of babies, because there's a lesson in everything. And also being not attached, meaning like I'm not attached to material things too, because they can go, they can come, I used to have a 5-year plan. COVID changed that. COVID has changed a lot of things. I think, and this sounds funny, but I'm a fat boy too. COVID changed the salad, what they call it, the delis or whatever. If you're in the East Coast, like you can't eat out there anymore. You can't the salad
buffets,
all that stuff. COVID changed that. So, anyways, I was trying to draw a correlation to that, but open to anything, attached to nothing is my philosophy.
Got you.
What is your philosophy and what that you're living by right now?
I would say mine is do you and suffer the consequences. So consequences aren't a bad thing. They're not always bad. I think when people think consequences, they automatically assume bad, but consequences can be good. So I think it's just be yourself, and then get the rewards. So if you're an evil person, there's going to be a lot of evil that comes to you. That's the consequence of being you. Contrast that with, if you're a good person, if you're doing good, if you're just being your authentic self, the consequences for that are going to be good consequences. And so do you suffer the consequences.
Absolutely. Final parting way gems that you could share. What are your lessons learned along the way? Was it that? Do you
yes. That's one. I think just, being comfortable in your lane, finding out that, like, you're not going to be everybody's favorite cup of tea, and you're not going to be able to be in every lane. I've been fortunate enough to be versatile enough to do a lot of different things, to be in a lot of different lanes and to execute those things well, but to know that, hey, you're not going to be able to be everybody's cup of tea. Like, if, cats that listen to like Lil Boosie or listen to like that hardcore Southern style, they're not gonna bump me. You know what I mean? And I'm okay. Like, I'm not gonna get invited to the ratchet clubs. I'm not gonna get invited to doing that type of stuff in that type of environment, and I'm okay with that. So, like, once you're okay with that, then I think that, sky's the limit pretty much. I think another lesson is, for me, it was let me think. I think a big lesson for me, I think, is probably similar to that, and that it's okay to be a nerd. It's okay to be, like, different. It's okay to be it's okay to be a one-of-one.
Absolutely.
And so
you guys just heard it. Yep. You guys just heard it directly from Cash Hollistah. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been another episode of Lessons Learned Along the Way. We appreciate your viewership, your listenership. Ladies and gentlemen, we are out.